The latest trailer for Game of Thrones is straight dragon fire, and we are going to get into all of it. I'm Roth Cornett, and this is Screen Junkies News. Game of Thrones returns July 16th, and thank the old gods and the new, HBO put out an extensive trailer of what we can expect. We get quick check-ins with all of the heavy hitters: Darth Cersei, Daenerys making landfall, Arya with frozen breath, and Jon rallying the North to fight the true war bursting through the wall. But believe me, that is not all. With me to break this trailer down is my Moon and Stars, Mary Risk. Mary, thank you so much. Can you tell I'm excited?
Oh my gosh, I'm excited too. We're so close. It's been so long.
I know. I was crying. I'm just back from vacation, so I am learning to re-speak the English language, and I've been gifted by HBO with this trailer. So let's talk about it. Let's break it down a little bit. First of all, this seems to follow the same sort of chronology of what we've seen today.
Yeah, it's been interesting. The last, the three pieces that we've gotten for season 7, that Sigils teaser, the Long Walk to the Throne promo, and then this trailer, have really all sort of looked back at the chronology of the throne and kind of then looked forward at what we can expect in the next season. So it's interesting to sort of see the editors following that same pattern. Mm-hmm. And with this teaser, we kind of start where we left off in the Red Keep with Cersei and King's Landing. She's the power behind the throne right now, but she's planning her defense against all these enemies. And, the last we saw Dany, she's sailing across the sea, and now she's landing in Westeros.
Yeah. And where is she? I mean, here's the other thing, too, is that I think the nice thing that they do is set up Cersei saying we have enemies. And let's talk about those enemies a little bit and who they are, right?
Yeah. So, it's really nice because you get this beginning of this trailer where she says you have enemies in all 4 corners of Westeros. You have them in the east, the west, the north, the south, and you get a nice shot of each of those. So you see Dany's army, obviously. Daenerys is one of probably our biggest competitor to Cersei in the throne right now.
Yeah, she's got dragons.
She's got dragons. So you've got Daenerys, and then you also remember that Daenerys sort of has this alliance with the Dornish and with Mama Tyrell. Oh, miss the Tyrells. And then obviously you've got the Starks in the north, which is Arya and Sansa, and you've got Jon, King in the north at Winterfell. But then you also have the White Walkers in the north. So that's a whole other group of people that they're going to have to deal with too.
Yeah. So, and it's interesting, and I'll bring up this point in a little bit, but she seems unperturbed by this. She seems scarily convinced that this is not going to be a problem for her.
She's very dead inside at this point. Like, she's lost her kids. She's wearing all black. She's left behind these lavish dresses. Everything feels like armor. And Jaime is even a little bit afraid.
Yeah, and I think that we saw that at the end of the last season when she took the throne. Jaime seemed very unnerved by that, and he looks so here as well when she's saying, we're the last Lannisters that count, which is, of course, calling to Tyrion, who she never cared for, obviously, but also that plays into the theory that Tyrion's, in fact, not actually a Lannister.
Right, that he had a different father. I mean, if you've read the books, you know a little bit about Tyrion's back family history, and his mom wasn't exactly the most consistent wife. So there's a chance that he has a different dad, and especially in the books too, there are some little things like his one purple eye that sort of suggest that he might have this like dragon in his blood.
Yeah, that he is, again, one, and here he is with the dragons, also bringing evidence to the idea that he is a Targaryen, is that the dragons seem okay with him.
Yeah, they seem pretty chill. I mean, we were all sort of surprised that they didn't eat him when he went down and saw them in the keep earlier.
He was such a snack.
Just such a little snack. Well, but yeah, it was just one of those things that he has this power as a ruler. He has this part in Daenerys' council. I want to see if he has that part in her war too.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that, look, we've all been waiting for sort of this idea of the three-headed dragon to play out. And obviously Tyrion is a big part of that with the fandom. Certainly they've been hinting a lot about that in the marketing materials up to date. And this is a quick season. It's only 7 episodes.
So fast. It's going to be so fast paced. And you can tell from the trailer already just how fast everything's going to go.
Yeah. So I'm getting so ahead of myself because I love this so much. But I wanted to talk about this idea with Jaime. There's a theory that potentially he would have to kill another mad ruler.
Yes.
And this time it's his sister lover.
His sister lover. Oh. Well, and it fits in really perfectly with the prophecy about Cersei. So if you remember, Maggie the Frog did the whole, your younger brother is the one who kills you.
And everyone would assume that would be Tyrion, including her.
Yes.
But Jaime is technically her younger brother, and he's already had to make this choice.
And you already have seen his
This is much
allegiances
different.
waver. You have the whole thing with him sending Brienne after Sansa, not to like capture or kill her, but to like save her, to like keep the promise to Mama Stark. Like, you definitely are seeing Jaime develop as a character, and he's developing away from Cersei.
Yeah. And also the thing is, I mean, look, that's one of the extraordinary things about this storytelling. You meet Jaime pushing a child out of a window, right?
Oh,
and you
which
think
is
that
horrible.
this is an irredeemable character.
Yeah, you think
and
you're
then
never going to like him.
You think you're never going to like him, and then he becomes one of the most beloved, complex characters that very much is human and does have a moral center. I mean, it wasn't easy for him to be a Kingslayer.
Well, and they keep hinting with Jaime's story that he has more to do. I mean, there's that great scene that you had in the previous season where, you know, or a couple seasons ago with Joffrey, where they're looking through the book of all the accomplishments of the Knights Guard or the King's Watch, I'm sorry. And his is so bare. And he says, you know, there's still time. And they're like, well, you're 40, but I think there is still time. And I think you could really see that if he has to take over Cersei, of that being his next
big step.
Yeah.
That would be such a heartbreaker in a way. I feel like there are people out there that are secretly rooting for her. Is my guess. Okay.
She's cool.
She's kind of badass.
I mean, she is, and I love her, and I wouldn't want her to not be on the show.
Be a ruler?
Exactly.
No.
Do I want her to be in charge? Not really.
Not really.
That's a little scary.
Well, there's none of them that I really want to be in charge. The only one that you want to be in charge is the one that really doesn't want to be in charge, which I think is Jon. Which is so true of life. So, but even then, they all have their pros and cons, which is why they should band together. Which brings us to Daenerys returning to the actual ancestral home.
Oh my gosh, it's so good. And you know, and this is something that we've been saying for a long time.
So where is she?
She's at Dragonstone.
She's at Dragonstone.
And we said from like get-go one, we thought she was at Dragonstone. It makes sense. It's the ancestral seat of the Targaryens. Geographically, it's really well poised to take both Casterly Rock and King's Landing. And I think there's a lot to her. And I think you see in the trailer the emotion that she has of going home and being where she's from. And she's come back to take what's hers. I think that starts with Dragonstone.
Yeah, absolutely. And who is there? And here's what's really interesting is who is there to greet her? Melisandre.
Oh. Now, this is a character that I think is a great example of someone that I've had really mixed feelings about. Sometimes I feel like she's on the side of good. Sometimes I feel like she's burning princesses for no good reason. And it'll be interesting because
or both at the same time in her mind.
Yes, I guess that's true. Very much, both at the same time. And she brought Jon back, and I could see her really pushing for an alliance between Jon and Daenerys.
I think that's what she's probably doing because, you know, I think her faith was totally shaken. So she returned to Dragonstone going, okay, this is where Stannis was, and I have to recoup and figure out what's going on and what the Lord of Light wants. And do you remember there were followers of the Lord of Light that were preaching for Daenerys, right?
Right.
And she believes in Jon, and so it makes sense that she would then want to bring them together. And what's interesting is that if she has Melisandre in one ear, and then she has
Davos in the
other ear, that's very much like Stannis.
It just puts her in the exact same place at the exact same keep. Like it's kind of eerie how much those stories are lining up. But I think the difference is that you have a ruler in Daenerys that you didn't have in Stannis.
Yeah,
and that she's going to have both those voices in her ear, but she's going to make her own decisions in a way that he never did.
Sure, and she also, I mean, she has learned the ability to take in counsel and heed it when there is great wisdom in it, but also make her own decisions.
Right.
We hope. So that
and it's interesting. There is the Sir Davos line in the trailer too that really I think supports this idea of bringing Jon and Daenerys together. Yeah. And you have a couple of these great scenes where she's sort of having this war council. She's in Dragonstone. She's in the same room that Stannis was in, having similar discussions. Oh yeah, there it is. Beautiful, beautiful. But if you have Davos in one ear and you have Melisandre in the other, and his comment is about how it's time to band together, that they need to all come together and fight the real terror, which is the White Walkers.
Yeah.
So I think that if that's the advice she's getting from multiple people, we could see that end up happening.
Which is ultimately what this has always been about. It's not about, and by the way, our producer said this, and I think it's true, like it doesn't matter which skeleton sits on the Iron Throne is maybe the most metal line ever. Yes. Because it has never mattered. No. That's the ironic thing is that we've seen so much pain and so much heartbreak and drama over this avarice,
Yes.
this thirst for this throne that ultimately will mean nothing.
And that goes back so much to even the very first season 7 teaser that they released with all the sigils. And you get Dany's line from the previous season where she's saying, you know, this one's on top and that one's on top, and
Yeah. It
crushing
doesn't really
those on the
matter.
ground. Yeah. Just really, really on the nose, but I think a beautiful sum up of where the season's going.
Yeah, and it brings me to very quickly, and I'll probably talk about this later as well. My theory, even starting from way back when, was that the ultimate end of the story, it was never going to be about any one person ending up on the Iron Throne. It was going to be about the destruction, the dissolution of the Iron Throne. And basically, if you think about who also is coming from the north, it's not just the White Walkers, it's the Wildings.
Oh, the Wilding army, of course.
And with them, they bring the idea of a version of democracy, of an end to the kneelers, of an end, right? They could bring that philosophy with them to some degree. Okay, I'm done. But that's my theory. I think it all ends in bloodshed and fire and pain, but then
freedom.
Which is nice. But then again, it's probably not going to be a very happy ending. Let's talk about Littlefinger and Sansa and Jon.
Oh, Littlefinger. Okay, well, Littlefinger is one of those characters, he's so hard to figure out, but you do get this really satisfying moment in the trailer where Jon gives him his comeuppance. They're down like in the keep below Winterfell, and you just see Jon slam him against a wall. And for me, that was so satisfying.
I agree. And, you know, like, it's interesting because there's a question, you know, he's with Sansa, maybe they are the power behind Jon. I don't think so. I don't think that I think she's had it up to here with him. But then again, she's probably felt like she's been pushed aside so many times, so you never really know where alliances are going to land.
I just feel like Sansa's really in it for Sansa now.
You do?
I think she's had so many people play her throughout the years. I think she's learned so much about how politics work. I mean, at this point, she's the one who actually knows Cersei Lannister better than anyone else, which is kind of terrifying.
Yeah.
And to me, I think that she's more out for herself and more out for what she thinks is right than actually out for Jon or Littlefinger. And I think she sort of displayed that in the Battle of the Bastards because she didn't trust Littlefinger enough to really go ahead and make that choice ahead of time. And she didn't trust Jon enough to tell Jon that that's the choice she was making to bring the Knights of the Vale in.
Well, let us not forget that they are not brother and sister.
No, they're cousins.
They are cousins. And in this world, that is perfectly acceptable marriage material, especially when you're talking about consolidating power, which is what they need to do because they need to rally people behind them. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's a move that's at least suggested, if not done.
And with Sansa, she's now had so many political marriages. You know, I mean, she was married to Tyrion, she was married to Ramsay,
for a hot minute.
She was betrothed to Joffrey, she was betrothed to Robin of the Vale, little Lord Aaron, and never once has one of those weddings been something that she actually wanted. I mean, at first she thought she wanted Joffrey, but like, girl was wrong, and she figured that out.
Yeah.
But you know, I could see her also not wanting to get married.
Can you imagine that being your first?
Oh, that would have been so bad. Oh my God.
Oh God.
Like she's almost, honestly, like I feel bad that like Tyrion wasn't her first because he probably would have been great.
I just want to take a quick moment to like give a what's up to Sir Pounce because that cat surviving Joffrey.
Who is feeding that cat?
I don't know.
Does anybody know?
That cat's doing it. That cat's going to be the only thing besides the only thing that survives.
So much.
It's going to be the cat on the throne at the end of it. That's
I would watch that. Game of Cats.
Hey, Internet, does Game of Cat exist? Because if so, in the comments, thank you.
Please,
so let's talk a little bit too about the hand, right? So this is something that people have been talking. We see a hand reaching out.
Yes.
We can go to that shot.
There it is.
Now, there's a couple of different theories about this hand. What were you thinking?
Well, I think there are two obvious ones, and I think the internet so far has sort of glommed onto these two obvious ones. Either that is a arm covered in grayscale, or it's the arm of Lady Stoneheart.
So I think it's grayscale. I think because I think at this point, look, we've all wanted to see Stoneheart and fans have been aching for that, but it just feels like at this point, with as quickly as we're moving through these seasons, to introduce her now maybe wouldn't make so much sense. So I do not think it is her, but it would be cool and interesting if it was. I do think that that is grayscale, and damn, that's not looking good.
No.
But also, if we go to Arya, it feels to me like Arya is the character that has taken on and embodied the spirit of Stoneheart. She is a spirit of vengeance.
Yeah.
She is out there doing the murders that Stoneheart would do. She is taking the vengeance for In the Name of the Starks. And so also she's in the woods. We know she probably is going to reunite with Nymeria.
Yes. Well, I feel really confident that she's going to reunite with Nymeria, mainly because we're pretty sure they were filming together. But it's interesting because Nymeria played a big part in Lady Stoneheart's story. So that actually works in really well with the theory that Arya is filling that role.
Yeah.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
I feel like that's probably what's happening.
I agree. It's hard because, you know, like as a fan of the books, obviously I want Lady Stoneheart to show up. So my little heart's like, oh, that could be a slightly like undead alive person, like Lady Stoneheart.
Yeah.
But I think given that, you know, Jorah's last instructions from Dany were to go cure himself. You see this grayscale, and if it is grayscale, it's in a form that we haven't really seen as much before. You see a lot more like blood and tissue. It's a lot less dried out.
Yeah, which is weird, and that is the only thing that makes me think, okay, maybe it's not.
Or maybe it's grayscale that's being cured, and he's like in some sort of quarantine because he's in some sort of cell there.
Yeah, it's unclear if he's.
Because you see the little like trap door in the cell that like probably was food and or like reaching out for humanity. I don't know. Oh, it's so creepy. But yeah, if it is grayscale, it's either being cured or not being cured.
Yeah.
Like real hard one way or the other.
Let's talk about who's getting it on.
Oh, there is some steam in this trailer.
Because here's a question I have I really do have this question for all of us. How is it that eunuchs, and I can come up with some ways, so maybe I shouldn't ask us this question, but how is it that eunuchs are getting it on? Because Grey Worm and Missandei.
Yes, but I believe that we established earlier on that he wasn't missing all of it.
Yeah.
He's only missing some of it. So like I think there's still some stuff to like
some business
to play with.
Okay.
So, you know, but also at the same time, like I'm not gonna knock like emotional cuddling.
I'm not gonna knock emotional cuddling
maybe
either.
they're just like having love and not like making love.
That did not look like cuddling to me. That was not like, ooh, let's cuddle.
Let's take off our shirts.
Yeah, that's not what that looked like to me, but maybe I'm wrong. Yara.
Okay. I love Yara. I feel like she's the kind of girl who takes what she wants. We definitely got some like vibes of her flirting with Dany last season. Really happy to see her with Sand.
Yeah.
It's a good,
they both need a little break. They need a little respite, so I'm fine with that. The other big question from this trailer is, where is Bran?
Where is Bran? Is he just freezing? Is he cold? Where's Mira? Are they together? Like, I mean, they're probably together because they can't walk. But, you know, we've had essentially one photo of him from the entire, like, promotional gambit of the last couple of months.
Which is interesting. He could be lightly featured in this season and then heavily featured in the next season, or they're just holding him back.
Yeah, and it's like, I was really hoping he was going to get back to Winterfell. He did not appear to be in any of that Winterfell footage. So maybe he won't get back to Winterfell. But yeah, I think whatever Bran's up to is a heavily guarded secret.
Let's also remember what Ellaria does with kisses.
Oh, I hope she's not
this
killing
might not be
Yara.
good for Yara.
She's got that poison lipstick.
Yeah, well, you know, I guess if you go out in a blaze of passion.
But on the flip side of that, Yara and Ellaria are definitely two people who I think could have a passionate moment without it having any sort of like repercussion or meeting in a bigger way for the show. So that even could just be like two girls having a good time that night.
Yeah.
They are definitely people who view sex that way, which I think is nice compared to some of the more stringent characters.
But it doesn't make sense in terms of an alliance. Does that make sense in terms of an alliance? You guys let us know what you think in the comments. Here's my thought about Bran. There was the theory last year, and I don't know if you remember this one, I'm sure you do, that Bran was essentially behind everything accidentally.
Right.
And that and that the moment of burn them all, that the Mad King was saying, burn them all, burn them all, burn them all, that was actually, as with Hodor, a moment where Bran was in that world and saying, burn them all, burn them all, burn them all. But he was talking about the White Walkers, and that the Mad King, it was driving him even more crazy than he already was.
I mean,
and that was his
possible.
interpretation. Yeah.
With the logic of the way that Bran's warging works and the way that his Third Eye Raven-ness works, that definitely could happen, and that could have been what it was. And you know, it's interesting because you do look sort of back at that history that's pre-Song of Ice and Fire and how quickly that king went mad. Yeah. That does make sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's a potential, and it would be certainly an interesting twist. It opens up a whole time loop paradox thing that I enjoy, but some people do not. So I'm not sure how that would ultimately work in terms of fate and destiny versus free will. But I leave that to the internet comments to decide. I just think that's maybe one of the reasons they're holding Bran back, is that he will ultimately play such a powerful role in the finale that they don't want to show it just yet, or to even tease any of it.
Well, and especially if a lot of what Bran is doing is sort of back in time, it would be hard to just sort of like throw an epic flashback into a trailer.
Yeah. Absolutely. You guys let us know what you think in the comments below. Let us know if we missed anything, what you saw, what your interpretations were, and what you were most looking forward to seeing in this season of Game of Thrones. You can certainly like, subscribe, click the things. There's videos here and stuff. There's subscribe buttons. There's ways to communicate with us on @SJ News on Twitter, for example. That's my outro. Did you like it?